now it's time to trim the feet. Let's talk a little bit about what the foot should look like. The hardest part about visualization is I bet you most of you have not sat there and looked and said, hey, what's a foot supposed to look like? I can do it because I've done 20,000 feet over the past 20 years. AKC in the standard, it says that the foot should be medium size, round, compact, and well knuckled. So when you look at this foot, obviously there's a lot of excess hair. But because the hair is here, it looks flat. And you want this to have a nice strong look. So you want it, if this was the foot, you want it to be built up so it's a nice, looks like this dog can support its weight well. By taking all this excess off, we can shape that foot. Right now, if you look at it from here, it looks a little bit pointed. We're gonna take all this hair off of there and make that a good foundation. Now, you have one advantage that I didn't have. When I first started this, I had to create my own foot. I had to try, through trial and error, what looks the best. Well, hopefully, if I do it right, I'm going to give you something that you can use as your visualization. So you can take my foot after I'm done and use it. If you like it. If you don't, create your own. Find your own. Whatever works for you. So let's get started. I'm going to start by brushing all the hair up, and we'll start cutting. One thing, many of you are going to be a little bit afraid at this point. We are going to use straight scissors, not thinning scissors. Thinning scissors are going to give us a blended look. I want a nice, tight, strong foot. So again, back to what we talked about, the different kinds of cuts. A straight scissor is going to give me a straight, harsh, more exact look, and that's what I want out of these feet. Because you're going to have many dogs that have flat feet or splayed feet and those kind of things, and you want to bring that in. You want to tighten it up. So here's how we're going to do that. Okay, here's our bottom of the foot. Now what you want to do is clean up all this hair that's in between the pads, make a straight edge on every pad, which is going to give us the foundation for our foot once we turn it over. The more you do down here, the easier it is once you turn the foot over. I always start on the right side, and I follow the pad line on across. And I'm going to do that for each and every pad. And sometimes you have a dog like this one, it gets a little bit ticklish with them. Not a problem. Let me readjust this here. If you want, you can take your finger from the underneath side and separate the toes to give you easier access. And follow all the way around the pad. And come down here, do the same. Stay. Good boy. Like so. It's nicer if you can get it all in one. Stay. It's nicer if you can get it all in one snip, but sometimes you have to come back and do more. That's fine. Stay. It's the greatest thing about live animals. They wiggle. That's why we always talk about mistakes. Got to be able to fix them because they will move. Especially if you're talking about puppies. Okay, that gives you kind of an overview. Now I'm going to come out and get this hair in the middle here. Follow the pad. Be careful not to use the tip of your scissors in there too often, because you can cut the insides of the foot, and then you have a dog that's got to go to the vet or is lame. So if you do cut in there, be very gentle and very cautious. Okay. Now I also want to come up the back side of these two pads, even with where this starts to tee out, right there. I'm going to start out here and keeping my scissors rested against this pad, not tight so I cut it, but just gently. Stay. I'm going to move it a little at a time until I'm all the way on the inside. And do the same over here. Stay. Good boy. This one, I walk from the inside out. And if you can't see, if you got excess hair in the way, just move it out of the way. It just shows me I need to get a little bit more out. Now, I don't expect you to be able to get all the hair with one swoosh. Sometimes you come back and see other little spots. Just get it cleaned up as best you can. Again, the more you do from the bottom, the better it will be when you come to the top. Stay. If you have to turn your hand over to get some of this, go ahead. You want to come right to the bottom of the nail. Now some of you are going to have dogs that have real long nails. See, this one's a lot shorter than this one. Just come in there as best you can. Stay. Until you get it nice and cleaned up. Don't worry about any of this that's on the top right now. That you'll get when you get to the top. Okay, this is the bottom of the front foot. It's very much the same throughout the pads. The only exception is when you get to the base of this big pad, where on the rear foot we didn't do anything. Here we're going to go up, even with the top of the pad here, straight across. We're going to remove the hair, so that it's completely gone there. And then everything else we do the same as the rear. Stay. And many of you have also used clippers on the bottoms of the feet. That's fine. The only issue is sometimes clippers, it's hard to make a nice straight line. So it gives you more work. That gives you more work to have to do when you get to the top of the foot. Stay. Just like that. Okay, now the only difference is on the front right foot, I reach up under the dog like so and bring the foot under them. It seems to give them a little bit more stability so I can do my cutting. And since I'm right-handed, to go on the other side makes it a little bit more difficult. And then I go through the same process. Okay, now that we're going to go on to the top of the foot, the first thing that we need to do is take our palm pad. We're going to brush up all the hair so it's all standing up. Then we're going to start with our roughly shapen foot. So we want to start, pick a side, whether it's the right side or the left side, I don't care. I'm going to start with the left, and I'm going to take off the rough edges to get a round shape to it. Okay, something like that. Just gives me an overall view, an overall idea. Now I'm going to go in a little bit more into a medium rough. Again, brush everything up. I'm not worried about this stuff on top. I'm going to take care of that in a few steps from now. I just want to get the shape from the top view. Again, bring it down a little closer. If you notice, I have my hand behind the hawk at a purchase point, stabilizing my hand, because it's hard sometimes if you're freehand to get in the same spot. Okay? That's all there is to it. 2 steps, it's already starting to take shape. Now I'm going to go and solidify my shape before I move on. So, brush it up again. Sometimes I'll blow the hair out so I can see the foot a little better. And now I'm going to take a little bit more detail. Maybe take a couple of passes on each area. And any hair that's affecting the shape of roundness, I'm going to take out. And you notice again, my hand always finds a way to brace itself against something. Use that purchase point. Sometimes you have to just keep going back and back and back until you get all the little hairs out of the way. Okay? Now, from the top down, I can see that looks like a nice round foot. I'm not completely done with that shape yet, but now I can move on to getting the bottom line, so then all of a sudden I can match it and blend it together. Now, viewing the foot from the side, we want to make sure that those lines that we put on the bottom are there. So we want this nice straight line from the nail along the pad. And actually, I did a pretty good job. This looks very straight. If I want to come back along there and tidy it up, I just follow the pad from the top and straight down. On this one the same way, from the nail. If you can make one cut is better than a bunch of little cuts, because matching them up is very difficult. Okay? That gives me a straight line there and a straight line there. Now I need to do the same thing on the inside. Here's where you become a little bit of a yoga person, because you have to be flexible. You have to turn your hand inside out, maybe walk to the other side of the dog, and do the same thing on here. Okay, I just make those two little cuts. Now, believe it or not, I'm ready to start shaping the foot from the height. I've got my roundness. Remember, try to make sure that they stand the way you want them to stand in the ring. If he stands, for instance, if he stands up like this, I'm going to move this foot forward a little bit and show you. We're going to move it up here. If he stands like that, it changes the overall look. These hairs now don't stick over. It's a little more flat. I'm going to bring it back now and watch the difference in the toes. Now this is more protruding. That's how he's going to stand when he's in the ring. So constantly try to shift their feet so they're standing as foursquare as possible. Okay? Again, I'm going to bring this up. Now I'm going to go to the height of my foot. Purchase point is going to be against the dog's leg. And I want my height to be about that high. If you don't know, take off a little at a time until you get to where you want. I'm viewing this, I am looking at it from the same angle that you are in the camera, so that I can see how high I want to go. There's my height, and I want to make sure that's the same height all the way around the foot. Again, it's rested against the dog. I'm not at a point where I'm going to cut the hair there, only what I've got on the tips. Blow off the hair, brush it up back in again, and go back at it again. That was my rough cut. Now I'm going to repeat it again. Just make sure there's no more hair sticking up. By keeping this level, I'm able to go around. If I didn't, then I'd have to rely on myself to keep things the same height, and sometimes that's hard to do. Your blood's pumping, and it's kind of like someone who's shooting a gun. They use their other arm to support it so it doesn't move. So now I've got my basic height. I've got my bottom line. I've got my shape. Now it's kind of like connect the dots. I'm going to round this off, going the way the hair grows. I'm going to start with the height I've already got and come down to, come down to the front. Now, one thing to be very careful of, this is where your foot really takes shape. So if you have your scissors too flat and you come in here, guess what? Your foot goes from being like this to being like this. And that's not what we want. So we're going to make our dog stand. I'm going to readjust the foot where you're supposed to be. Brush the hair up and continue on. Come around, level it, round it off. Stay. Now sometimes, as I do this, the hairs have come out of other areas. That's okay. I can go back and fix those now while I can see it, because with them standing out, because I've already done other areas, they show up easier. They show up better. Okay? So I'll just get those while I see them, because I know they're there. Continue on. Rotating that down, blending it with everything else. Blow the hair off. My foot's really taking shape now. Now, you know what? I could stop there. It looks good, but I want it to look great. If I'm always striving for perfection, more than likely I will achieve excellence. So, do some more. Tidy it up. Start back. Check from the side. Well, now all of a sudden I got more height again. I didn't want that height. So I'm going to take it off. It's just a constant, little at a time, little at a time, little at a time. As you get better at this, you can speed up and you can take more off. But I suggest in the very beginning, take it slow. The only thing that's going to happen is like this one. The dog's getting a little tired and they're going to move a little more. But that's okay. You can deal with it. Come back. Tidy up the little pieces. Make sure you go all the way around the foot. Okay? Now, I'm at a point now where I'm down to real fine detail work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to really anchor myself, really get a good solid purchase point, and I'm going to start just taking the tips off. Okay? I'm going to define the toes a little better. Not a lot. I don't want them to be each individual toe, but I want them to have a slight bend when it comes to each toe. There's a difference to having 4 individual toes and a shape that looks like it has 4 little mounds to it, 4 little indentations for toes. So I'm just going to take off the tips and blend everything together. Stay, good boy. This nail happens to stick out a little more than I want to, so I'm going to go over the top of it. Stay. It's not what I always want to, but I can. Okay, foot's coming together. Don't forget, take a step back every so often. Make sure you're doing what you need to do. Look at the overall look. I stepped back there and said, you know what? This toe is sticking out a little farther than I want. Stay. Good boy. So, let me see. I want to take some more off of here. Again, just taking the tips off. Now, if I ever have to go along the nail, like right through here, it's still sticking out. This nail, for whatever reason on him, sticks out farther than this one. So, I can lay the side of my scissors down flat. I scrape along the nail, and then I turn my scissor. Whoops. Get back here. Lay it flat and turn my scissor and make a cut. That makes a nice straight line. It gets right next to the nail. A little nail showing is not going to hurt because from a distance, all you're really going to see is the overall shape of the foot. Okay. Okay, now you can see the view from the top. Most everything looks nice and tidy. There may be a few stray hairs here and there that if I wanted to take off, I could, just to really finalize it. Again, just tipping the hairs. Yep, and I think that's the foot I'm happy with, and that looks good. Now moving on to the front foot, making sure that the dog is standing the way he's supposed to be. I'll maybe move this out a little bit more. Legs nice straight up and down. I'm going to bring all the hair up. Now I will give you one other option. If you want to flatten the hair down the first time, you can to do your rough outline, rough shape. Stay. You can do that. Sometimes it helps to look and get that shape a little easier without some of the longer hairs there, like so. Then bring the hair up and continue on with your medium shaping. Stay. Okay. Rid of the hair that's in the way, make sure I can see. Bring the hair up and shape it one more time. Now with the fronts, you do have to watch that. You remember that you want a straight leg. So where this foot looks like it may be protruding more here and here, I'm going to watch that so that I can take more hair off of that. Getting the dog standing the way he's supposed to be. Come back through. I'm going to come back here and connect to the front, just because he's getting a little bit antsy and wanting to move, so I want to make sure that I've got my hand on him so he doesn't move. Okay, and bring that up. And here's what I'm talking about. Right through here, I want to bring this in a little bit tighter than I normally would. Stay. Stay. Bring this in a little bit tighter than I normally would to try to straighten out that foot. Now sometimes you're going to get hair that is next to the nail. You can get this now if you want to by trimming like so, or you can wait till you do the bottom line. Either way, it's going to have to be got, so it doesn't really matter when you decide to do it. Okay, that gives us a nice shape to our foot this way. Now we're going to come at the bottom line and get our bottom line fixed. Okay, now checking the bottom line, we want to make sure this has a nice clean edge. I see a little bit of roughness, so I'm going to come along, follow the base of the pad with my scissors as flat to the ground as I possibly can. And connect it with the nail. Do the same thing here. If you're having a real problem getting that to look real flat, Sometimes if you change the direction that you're doing this from and come at it from the front, that can sometimes get you a better view. And sometimes you have to lift the foot back up and do it again. Now that I have the bottom line and my rough shape, now I'm going to bring the hair up and get the height of my foot. Come look at it level with the foot and start taking hair off until it's the height that I think I want it. Then bring everything, get this hair out of the way, bring everything else to that same height. Bring the hair back up and do it again. Again, I'm resting my scissors against the side of the dog's leg. So as to make it stable. Now that I have the rough height, I want to connect the bottoms and bring it all the way up to the top. I'm just going to start back here and blend everything down. Connect it to a nice round shape. Making sure to keep my scissors more vertical so that I can round it until it doesn't become flat this way. Connecting this all the way around. Just like so. And bring the hair back up and do it all over again. So there's going to be more finishing touches now. I'm going to concentrate on one area at a time. Stay. Get that rounded out and then move on to the next one. Stay. See how I keep always, even though he's moving a lot, I still keep putting his foot back because I want to make sure that his weight is on that foot exactly the way I need it. Stay. Good boy. If you notice, again, my finger is rested on that purchase point on the table. That allows me to be able to just move my scissor a little at a time. And keep the same height and distance around. Like so. Now let's say that you're in the middle of this, you're doing real good, and all of a sudden, wham, you get a big chunk out because the dog moved or whatever. And let's say it's real deep. What am I supposed to do? Well, I got to fix it. It's a mistake, and mistakes happen. So I want to try to blend that in. Well, we're blending, and most of the time that we would blend, we would take thinning scissors. But this time, I'm going to take my straight scissors and try to see if I just can't tighten the foot up. So it may be a little tighter than what I would wanted the first time, but I can still fix that mistake. And you know what? When you're using scissors to trim feet, there can be quite a lot of mistakes. I just keep blending that spot over and over again. Tighten it up on the bottom. They're going to tighten up the whole area. Tighten up the front. Going to have to expose a little more nail than I wanted to. But pretty soon, the mistake's gone. Or at least not that visible. And then I just come over here to the other side and match what I did over there. Stay. There's the view from the top right now. We've almost got it figured out. Almost got the look that we're looking at. We've got a few stray hairs coming out, including a big one that doesn't belong there. And we're just going to come and blend it. Blend the top of the foot. Does it look like a little line there? I'm going to blend that all together. Again, just taking the tips off. Stay. And we're going to try to straighten out the leg more by taking more hair off the foot. Stay. And I'm going to take some of the last little bit of tipping off. Just go around and feather the edges. Blend it together. And there you have your final foot. As always, one last little bit. Now we're finished. Now that we have the foot done, we've fixed our mistake, we've got the heights, we've got the roundness, now we just need to finalize the back of the foot. I like to give this, when we trimmed the bottom of the foot, we came up in here. Now I'm going to come straight across, up into that. Whoops. Let's come back here. There we go. Come back up under there. And what this does is it gives a little bit more strength to the foot. Sometimes you have to come and tidy this up here to blend it in. And carry this out here. What that does is going to give us nice straight, nice strong looking foot. This toe here looks nice and strong. Again, just adding to the overall look. We do have this hair here that we need to do something with. What I typically do, looking at the dog's foot, he's good and strong through the pastern area. So I want the transition, when I do trim this, to be nice and gradual, which his kind of naturally is that way. If you have ones that are real long, let's say that this was hanging down like this, then I would taper it up like so. And his is actually kind of naturally that way, so it's not going to be that hard to continue on. I want to get the feathering out of the way, straighten this out, let it kind of naturally hang the way it's going to. And you can use your long scissors or your straight scissors, whatever you want to. And I'm going to cut this all at an angle. Remember, we already cut the back of this foot up here. So I want to make sure that this is all clean, like so. And then your feathers are going to kind of hang over that. Something like that. Now you've given this dog a nice finished foot. If you want some, it's totally acceptable. If you want to bring the hair up, let's say that you have a dog that appears real short-legged, and you want to bring this hair, hold still, want to bring this hair here shorter, you can. Just don't make it too short, because you don't want to make him appear like he's real weak in the pastern. So you might want to bring it straight like this. You can do that also and let this hang over like so. I've always used a bevel unless the dog is really short on leg and I want to heighten that, which in case I would do that. And there's our foot. There's your comparison between the more of a before and after. Very flat foot, not very good shape, doesn't look very strong. This foot looks nice and strong. Toes are well arched, well knuckled. Looks like I could carry this dog for days and hours.